Hey guys, this is Colin, and this is Colin Talks Crypto. And if you watched my channel recently, you saw I put out a video where I showed how I strongly believe that we will easily surpass $100,000 per Bitcoin during the next bull run and may reach as high as $300,000 per Bitcoin. And I showed how I feel that that is not only possible, but likely. That video got a lot of views and a lot of responses. And thank you very much, by the way, for your participation in liking it, disliking it, commenting, because that's what it's all about. It's all about us talking and discussing and figuring out this crypto game that we're embarked upon. So in this episode, I'm just going to touch upon what I think is the most common response I got. I got a ton of different types of responses, but one particular type of comment I noticed the most, and that was, past performance is not a guarantee of future performance, and various wordings of that. Basically, what people were saying is that just because something has happened before, it is not guaranteed to happen again. And that is completely correct. I just want to point that out. They are absolutely right. And so this video is my response to that. Thank you for joining me. Today, I want to put this in perspective, and this is my response to all those comments. The S-curve. And what is the S-curve? An S-curve is a measure of the adopters of a particular innovation. The curve is an S shape because it models the rate of adoption. At first, the adoption of an innovation is typically slow. As knowledge of the innovation increases, the rate of adoption also follows. In the end, the adoption of the innovation seems to plateau and level off once the majority of members of a social system adopt the innovation. So obviously the innovation we're talking about here is the blockchain and cryptocurrencies and what they bring to mankind. Freedom of money, essentially. So how does the S-curve fit in with this? Let's look historically at some various S-curves, okay? Because there's a lot of examples of this. So on this image, we see examples of past S-curves. We have the telephone, we have electricity, the automobile, radio, refrigerator, stove, clothes washer, clothes dryer, color TV, air conditioning, dishwasher, microwave, VCR, computer, cell phone, and internet. And you can see that they're not perfect S's, but the general idea is that as the majority of the population adopts it, there are just fewer and fewer people remaining, and so it tapers off near the top. And at the beginning of the S-curve is the early adopters, and these are the people who are pioneering in the subject and getting involved before the mainstream does. And then when it goes kind of vertical in the middle here, that's when everyone is piling on board. So why is the S-curve my response to people who say that past performance is not a guarantee of future performance? And that is simply that, where are we in cryptocurrency today on a global adoption percentage? I would argue that we are below 1%. I mean, how many people do you know in the regular workaday world out there in society who know more than just they've heard of Bitcoin? I think at this point we're at the stage where people basically have heard the word Bitcoin. They've heard Bitcoin, right? That doesn't mean that they own any. Very few people beyond you and I who are in the know own any cryptocurrency. And so if we were to look at one of these curves right here, where do you think that we would fall? If we take the top of the graph here to be 100% and the bottom to be 0%, I mean, this is very roughly speaking, I think that we are down in this phase right here. We are well beyond the early innovators and adopters. Bitcoin has been successful for 9 years now. And like I said, most people have heard the term Bitcoin. Kind of like back when maybe cell phones have been out for a little bit and people had heard of it, but not everyone yet had one. Those were the innovators and the early adopters. And so again, at a very broad look, we are in this early adopters phase where I don't think we've even gone vertical yet. We haven't even gotten mainstream pouring in like we see with these other technologies, like we see with, the internet. You can see that the internet here is this orange line, and it's going vertical still. The world is still adopting it. This is 1990 when it starts on this graph here. So 30 years later, the internet is still going basically vertical in adoption. So where are we with cryptocurrency? Guys, I think we are at the beginning of a giant freaking S-curve. If we are one of these S-curves that takes, I mean, look at the scale of these. They're anywhere from 30 to 50 to 100-year S-curves. And we are revamping money for the entire monetary system of the planet. This is cryptocurrency. This is money. This is what the internet did for information, but to money. So is it going to be done in 5 years or 10 years? I highly doubt it, because we have so much room to go. And we have so many countries and so many people that never have even heard of it yet that are going to be using it someday. And so when we look at this adoption curve, we are way down here, guys. And here's another example of the S-curve. Okay, so we have the innovators down here, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Laggards is like when your grandma finally starts to use email when 99% of the population has used it. We are not there. Late majority, we're not there. Early majority, I don't even think we're at early majority. I think we're down here still, guys. I'm not sure exactly where, but we're not going vertical. So with that being said, we are well below 10%. There is a giant vertical climb coming. That is why we're going to see more bubbles. Not that we necessarily know exactly when or where it's going to happen, and there's going to be fluctuations, but we do know if we take the assumption that crypto isn't going away, and I already have that as a baseline assumption. Some people who come onto my channel and they go, Bitcoin's going to zero. My video isn't even for those guys. They need to take some like cryptocurrency 101 crash courses to get the clue of what even we're doing here. Because if you don't even get what we're doing here, if you don't get what a blockchain is, if you don't get how hashing works and how secure private key cryptography works, you don't get the innovation that blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are, and you need that foundation. So when you get that foundation and you get the censorship resistance and these qualities, these immutable qualities that blockchain brings to mankind, then you can start at ground zero. You're like, okay, this technology is something legit. It's not going away. Do I see it going away or getting bigger in the next 5 years? Do I see it going away or getting bigger in the next 10 years? I would answer every one of those questions with, I see it getting bigger tremendously in every span of time, up to 100 years from now. So with that being said, that's my foundation for this S-curve. That's like, yes, we know it's happening and we know it's going here. We don't know when it's going here, but we know we have a long ways to go. And that is the basis for my answer that we are gonna see more bull runs, and we're gonna see quite a few more, because until we're at the top here, they're going to have to happen. The market has to get money into the market somehow. And so I want to take a moment here and just portray with a visualization. I'm going to try to do this in Adobe Premiere here with how I see this happening. I'll first sketch it out. So 2009, Bitcoin got invented, okay? And then 2010, 2011, and there's been these little peaks and valleys on the way. This is how I see it. This is the scale we're looking at here, guys. And we're now 2013, 2014, 2015, 16, 17. Oh, we went way up to $20,000 and then we crashed down here, guys. Okay, 2018, here we are. And so 2020, mid 2020, if you look at my last video, is when I predict we're going to see a Bitcoin reach as high as $300,000. And so that will be over here, and it'll be like way up like this. Because again, the market is irrational for periods. And it's irrational too high and it's irrational too low as it corrects. But these peaks and these valleys are just its corrections on this much broader, grander scale of 50 to 100 years. Let's call this time scale 100 years, just to throw it out there as something for food for thought. So here was Bitcoin's birthday, year 0, 2009, and here's 2109, the year 2109, okay guys? And we're gonna see peaks and valleys, and they're gonna be irrationally high and irrationally low, but it's gonna be dipping and climbing and dipping and climbing. And if you zoom way in on any of these, then you're looking at something like this. This here is what we just looked at, but it's like looking at this. You see, guys? So as I said, I tend to not get caught up in all the little tiny swings and peaks and valleys. In fact, even on a couple years basis is relatively short term when we're talking about the lifespan of cryptocurrency as an entire global movement. And when you look at it from that point of view, yeah, these little peaks and valleys are going to happen a shit ton of times. They're going to happen over and over and over until we finally peak out near the top, and things might settle out a little bit then. And you know, there might even be sub spikes and sub climbs and dips on the way. Make it way up here, way irrational. You know, maybe the New York Stock Exchange widely adopts cryptocurrency and all these mega investors get on board. That could be the cause for a giant bull run. And then maybe it corrects majorly. And we could be talking 5 years, 10 years between these things. They can be enormous periods of time. But on a general, we're going to see an S-curve. So do I think that Bitcoin's going to hit $300,000 someday? Abso-freaking-lutely. I think it's going to reach $1 million someday. And that might partially be due to the US dollar losing value as well. You know, as we know, the lifespan of any currency averages 27 years. And so it's only a matter of time before the US dollar and other fiat currencies collapse. It's only a matter of time. And I can say that because they're printing endless supplies. You can only do that to the detriment of the value of the dollar. So it's a guarantee that a currency is going to go to zero eventually. And with a finite supply with cryptocurrencies, that is a game changer because you cannot artificially inflate the supply. And so anyways, guys, do I think that Bitcoin's going to 300,000? Absolutely. If we were to draw it on this graph, let's say that this is 2009 over here. I think that it's such a massive movement. It's such a humongous innovation for global adoption that I think, you know, broadly speaking, it's going to be one of these huge S-curves. And, you know, this is like Africa over here adopting it at the end. And after 100 years, we'll have everybody on board. But we're going to see some enormous adoption, and it may happen more quickly. It's very possible it may happen more quickly because of the need of it, because it's money. You know, it's not a refrigerator. It's not a color TV. It's way more important than that. Or it could take longer because everyone's dealing with money. So we'll just have to see how it pans out. But if you have that baseline understanding of what the technology brings, that's the fundamentals. That's what you need to understand before investing in something. Then you know what we're doing here. It's like being at the beginning of Microsoft and recognizing what they're doing with Windows as an operating system, or the iPhone for smartphones, or the internet. You know, if you were at the beginning of those tremendous innovations, and you recognize that at the beginning here, when they were just starting off, and you invested in a company or a service or something like that, or a stock, you would have seen tremendous returns by the time we've gotten up here because you were at the beginning of the early adopters. So that's what we're doing here, guys. We're just bringing public awareness to the fact that we are at the beginning of the S-curve, and there is a tremendous number of bull runs to ride and a long ways to go and a lot of money to be made. This is not investment advice. This is just how I see the market. So guys, that's my response. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for participating. Please like this video. Please share this. Please subscribe. Please thumbs up. And please hit that bell icon so you can be notified more. This is just how I look at things, and I hope you appreciate it because I appreciate sharing it with you. Thank you very much and have a great day. Take care.